Hi guys, welcome back. I'm Parker and I cover trans news. Today, in this video, I will be following up on a story that I covered previously about Leah Smith. She was a trans athlete at Middlebury College who recently committed suicide. And so I want to read part of this article and then talk about it. This is from Yahoo News, and the writer is named Caitlin Burns. It says, Caitlin Burns discusses the death of Leah Smith and calls for dignity and justice against the hostility that transgender athletes like her face on a daily basis. Smith did not set the original NCAA policy that allowed trans participation in college sports, nor did she decide to turn it into a national outrage that a trans girl might find joy in a women's sport. All of that was taken away from Smith. What was once a reliable, repeatable pillar of her life was ripped away from her. First, because she felt like an outlier among her peers, and then because the powers that be took away her right to be on the team. As we look at how the Trump government and conservatives at large have pursued their anti-trans agenda, they've consistently targeted the fundamental social pillars upholding trans lives. Smith is not even the first trans person to die by suicide at Middlebury in recent years. In 2023, another trans person died on campus. The college and the wider community should be looking into how they can better support their trans students. Transgender people are more than just a political issue, and we're in danger. We need all the help we can get from friends, neighbors, politicians, school administrators. It's impossible to know exactly why Leah Smith died, but we do know the overall societal atmosphere in which it happened. And it's a hostile one in which trans people are increasingly discriminated against, excluded, and treated without respect or dignity. Let her passing be an inflection point for how you think about trans rights and trans people more generally. Help us. So I loved that writing. So now I want to talk about this a little bit from my perspective. This has kind of been my message all along, is that trans lives are not a political issue. And how do we know that? We know because there are trans Republicans, trans Democrats, and trans people who don't associate with politics at all over the spectrum. We exist, we are here, and that's a fact. Research shows that when trans people have access to health care, including gender-affirming treatments, suicide rates drop. But Republicans have enforced religious extremism onto the American public and used it to dictate legislation. Religion seems to be the only justification that backs up their hatred and denial of transgender people. It definitely doesn't use scientific research or fact. And I can tell you, I also face this daily hate online. People openly calling me a man, cheering when I report on a suicide. I've had my life threatened many, many times by these people. And every single time, it's a Christian nationalist, white supremacist. But the justification for them is always religion. So these people tend to be huge bullies, online and in person. They seek out trans people specifically to bully them. So I want to look at some statistics on bullying. So in the US, 46% of trans and non-binary youth seriously considered attempting suicide in the past year, and 14% had attempted suicide. These rates are substantially higher than those for cisgender youth. So there's a 2020 peer-reviewed study that found that trans and non-binary youth experiencing discrimination based on their gender identity had more than double the odds of suicide attempt compared to those who didn't. And then among trans and non-binary youth who were bullied, 32% attempted suicide compared to 14% of those who were not bullied. So that 14% of these trans and non-binary people attempted suicide and were not bullied. The ones that were bullied were over double that amount. So this type of bullying that we see every day here on TikTok is really, really bad for people's mental health. A study found that suicide attempts among trans and non-binary young people increased in states with anti-trans legislation, exactly what Trump administration and the MAGA cult are doing right now. That suggests a causal relationship between discriminatory politics and higher suicide rates. These statistics highlight the critical link between negative social experiences such as bullying and discrimination and severe mental health outcomes for trans people. Republicans in the MAGA cult are intentionally doing this to transgender people. And for the party claiming to be Christian and pro-family, this seems like more like the work of the devil. Thanks, guys. Like this video, share this video. I'll be back very soon with more news. Bye.